Hello there, and welcome back to Four Tims in a Podcast. You join us later in the week. This week it's Friday, the 10th of April, and it is myself, Darren, joined by Andy today, as we wanted to get an episode out. We had a few scheduling issues with the other two, so we thought we'd just get together and get an episode out. It's obviously been a busy week for Celtic, and since we've been on, we obviously had that Dundee game at St Park last week where a late Kelechi Iheanacho winner saw Celtic cut the gap on Hearts after they drew 2 each at Livingston, but they remain in third place, obviously 3 points behind Hearts and 2 points behind Rangers. So that led us into what was a busy week. On Tuesday, I think it was, the split fixtures were announced, so we'll go through them, talk about whether we think they're favourable for Celtic or if we would have had that, if what we would have preferred if any changes to what it came out like. And then finally, after I think 6 months, the club and the Green Brigade have came to an agreement which will see Green Brigade group return to Celtic Park officially on Saturday for the St Mirren game, which is obviously the final game before we enter the blip. So, as I say, myself and Andy here will just cut through it. And at that Dundee game, it was another hard watch, and I think after we conceded that penalty through a Colby Donovan handball, it felt like it might have been another one of the days for Celtic, but fair play to the subs making the difference again. Kelechi Iheanacho comes off the bench for Chinchara and gets a late winner, which could prove crucial, especially with Hearts dropping points that weekend as well.
Yet again, it's been a story of the season, to be honest, regardless of manager, line-up, whatever it may be. It's a story of two halves for Celtic. I mean, the first half, if we go in 3-0 up, I don't think MD bats an eyelid. Like, the chances were there. And at times we were playing some good stuff in terms of getting forward in transition really quickly, creating chances. I think Vinchara, I don't know how he's not getting in the score sheet, to be totally honest with you. As I say, it was that story, and I mean, obviously when you get the first quite early on, I think it was about the 10-minute mark or whatever, and Yang gets the goal, which fucking scandalous that Negrins tried to take it off him, but it doesn't surprise me. But anyway, I was happy it went to Yang. You get the first and you think, right, let's get another one now. It's still early in the first half. We've started well. Go and get another one and sort of start to try and get the game to bed as early as possible. And the longer it goes on, I'm sure we were talking about it at the time, that you know we're just susceptible to making an arse or something. Regardless of how well you're playing, when it's 1-0, you always leave that risk. I don't know how many times we've said that, but second half kicks off, and I know they get the penalty early on, going to that in a wee second, but it's just totally symptomatic of everything that's wrong with this team, with this squad. And I said it before, it's no a Martin O'Neill thing, it wasn't a Wilfred Nancy thing, it wasn't a Brendan Rodgers thing. It's completely consistent with this team this season. They're not able to put 90 minutes together. I don't know why, I don't know what it is, I don't know what causes it, but I can't really think of many Celtic teams that had the capacity to go for an 8 or a 9 out of 10 to a 2 out of 10 in two halves of football so consistently. Consistency is probably the best word to use, because we just don't have it all 90 minutes. The penalty itself is one of them, like, the way the rule is, it probably is a penalty. It's just when somebody fucking rattles the ball for that close, it's difficult to get your horn out the road and whatever else. It's just when your horn's up there, you run the risk in the box. That's the reality. Like, we can only play with the rules we've got at the minute. So under the rules, it's probably always going to get given. I think that's just where it's at. I think anybody that's disagreeing with it just disagrees with the rule as it is in its current sort of state of play. But it's unfortunate. I don't think things like that should be a penalty. I think if somebody's fucking, like, somebody that's kicked up off, somebody fucking leathers the ball for a couple of yards away, like, there's not much you can do. Whether it's your heat, your on, your leg, like, if it's gone in that direction, it's probably going to hit. Obviously, the subs come on. Nacho had to come on. Kevin if he missed one more chance, I was going to fucking lose my mind. But Donovan obviously gets injured. Again, you're turning to James Forrest, which I'm not going to have a go at Forrest. It's not his fault that we're still trying to dig out games and points with him. But the goal just comes for Nacho being that type of player and that getting himself in these positions. And listen, you know that he's got the ability to put the ball in it, and he will do it. It's just a fitness thing, an injury thing with him, which is unfortunate, but that's ultimately how he's ended up here. The fitness and injury problems have caused him that. But listen, if we can get a couple of goals out of him coming off the bench and in those situations to dig us out, then brilliant. Obviously the red card comes, and that maybe makes it a bit less nervy. I always think, especially when the league's so tight, I understand it, but it really frustrates me at times when it's like 2-1 and we don't seem to try to push for that second goal. And again, I understand that you don't want to commit too many forward and get hit in the break because that's more detrimental than no adding another goal to the goal difference. But there was a couple of times I felt like we could have really just went and buried the game and put another goal in the goal difference, and we didn't. But listen, the most important thing, as I say, is getting 3 points. And we dug it out, and it's just, we keep saying we can't keep doing it, but boy, that's what we're doing. So listen, you would take 2-1 every game from now at the end of the season, and you would take it in the 80th minute or whenever the goal came. But Darren, I thought it was just a really, if you were to show us a game that defined the majority of the season, that was probably it. I don't know what your thoughts were.
Aye, pretty similar. I think we all says at half time that we'd been really good, but we were just waiting on the sucker punch because, see, to be fair, I actually thought Big Tam was excellent apart from finishing, which is really detrimental if you're playing centre forward for Celtic. But it seems to be a sort of common theme between forward players now. He obviously, I thought he'd done a lot right. He got into great positions, made good runs, but like it was just sort of summed up with the one that hit the post in the first half, where it looks a pretty simple finish and he wasn't able to do it. And I like him, but as a lone player, you're probably going to be looking to improve on him in the summer. I don't think he'll be kept on. I think there's a lot of talk that he's on a big wage as well, so to take that on permanently would be a bit of a concern for me, given the least sort of lack of lethal finishing so far. But I think he played well enough. But as I say, it seems to be a real issue with our forwards. And I think Maeda last scored against Dundee United in January, maybe, was it? I think that was maybe his last goal. Yang's obviously got on the score sheet on Sunday, but I think he's sort of levelled out a bit as well, where he's not scoring as regularly as he was. And I know you called Nygren out there for trying to steal that goal, but that's probably the only fucking good thing Nygren's got going for him. He is a selfish bastard and he's not afraid to have a go, and he's the only player in our team that's even on double digits for goals in the league, so I'm not mad about him trying to make sure that goes in. I think it was unnecessary, but look, it's probably the only thing you can credit Nygren with a lot this season. He is there when it matters and he's in the right place to get on the end of these sort of chances. But I did think that as I say, compared to what we played up there under Rodgers and then the cup game as well, I thought it was as dominant as we've been against Dundee, where we, as you say, I don't think anybody would have been complaining if we were 3 or 4 up at half time. I think it would have been fully deserved. And then obviously we concede the penalty. I agree with you. I think it's always going to be given the sort of shape that Donovan's arms in at that time, but it's unfortunate. And then the one thing I did say in our group chat on Sunday was, as much as like, I'm with you, I think people saying it's sort of unsustainable. I think at this stage it probably is a bit sustainable. You've got 6 league games to go, so you know what, if you were to dig every one of them out with a 1-goal margin, I don't think that would be completely unrealistic for this team. But they showed that they could come back from that, conceding that goal and got the winner. I think if you sort of combine the Big Tam and Iheanacho, you'd have a brilliant striker, because you've got Big Tam that does all the work outside the box and links up play really well, and then we've got Iheanacho who just looks like a much better finisher. And as you say, it's just been sort of fitness that's stopped him probably being our number 1 striker this season. But that, again, I think you say that's why he's here, is the fact that he can't seem to stay fit. And I think he was talking about in the week there about possibly extending his deal and try to get a new contract. Again, I'd be quite surprised if we kept him on, given the wages he's probably commanding. But look, he can still have a big part to play in the last 6 games of the league in the semi-final as well if he stays fit. He's, as I say, I think he's probably the most lethal finisher we've got in terms of centre-forward options. But I thought it was obviously vital important. I think if we drop any more points, especially at that stage, if we'd have dropped points, I think we would have been completely out of it. But look, we've cut the gap to win like one game can swing it all. If Hearts drop points on Saturday against Motherwell, then we've got the chance to go top of the league if we win that game on Saturday, and then we play the first game in the split, which I know would play before Rangers and Hearts, but that would then give us the sort of optics of putting ourselves back on top and putting pressure on them, which I think could tell. But no, on that game, I was, as I say, I think it's as dominant as we've been against Dundee this season, and glad that we got the goal, just because I was sort of wondering why likes of Hatate and Taneki weren't brought off the bench, but the subs that have come on have made the difference. I thought Iheanacho, as he says, he's there when it matters, gets a goal, and I thought Sirachi was really good as well. Sirachi's somebody who I think probably has deserved a lot more game time this season. I know he's had a few injuries, but I think every time I see him, I think he's brilliant, and no harm to Tierney or Ralston or whoever, but I don't care who you're accommodating at this point. I think he would be one of my first names in the team sheet now. I think he's so effective when he's played this season. But Andy will come on to the split. As I say, it's come on I think it was Tuesday at 1 o'clock maybe that the fixtures came out, and sees Celtic open the split at home to Falkirk at 5:30 on a Saturday. We then travel to Easter Road the following Sunday. Then the following Sunday after that is the final Glasgow derby of the season, which sees Rangers travel to Celtic Park. Then tough midweek game against Motherwell away. And then we finish off the campaign with what could be a blockbuster game at home to Hearts, where both teams that are playing that day will be still hoping that the title's in their own hands. But what was your sort of thoughts on it? A lot of people, especially outsiders, seem to think it's been weighted towards giving Celtic an advantage, despite the fact that Celtic were always the team that were going to have 3 home games and therefore most likely to be at home on the last day. But did you think it was quite unfair that Hearts and Rangers they've been forced to play teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona in this split, and it's just so weighted against them?
Aye, fuck, you think that's the way it's went, but how dare Celtic play 19 games at home and 19 games away in a football season? That's just fucking dreadful. Listen, see whatever fixtures came out, they were going to moan about it, that's what they do. You knew who Celtic were going to play, you knew that we had more home games than away games left. It's just the makeup of it. If they'd have put us against Hearts first, they'd be saying, oh, how come you get one of your difficult games at the start and you're playing no one of the lesser teams, but you know what I'm saying? Like if we'd had Falkirk at home in the last game and say, oh, how come you get an easy game in the last? Like, that's just what they are. They're great-and-faced bastards. Nothing will ever change with that. Reality is, we knew who we were going to play, we knew what we were up against, and it's just about getting on with it and ignoring that outside noise. Let them get themselves something a tizzy about it and just go on with it. I think it's, when you mentioned it, it's like home, away, home, away, home. I think it's good fixtures, it's a good run. It's not as if you've got Easter Road and Firth Park back-to-back away games type thing. I quite like that's fell that way. We should be looking to sort of utilise the home advantage where we can, but it's before that you've got Saturday, you've got St Mirren, who have caused us issues this season, obviously by putting us at the cup and things like that. So I really think that we knew who we were going to play in the split. We knew what we were going to be up against. We know what these teams are all about. We know how they're going to play. So the reality is, it shouldn't be a shock to anybody. It's just about what we do and how we manage these games, and hopefully we can keep fit. When you mentioned guys like Sadachi, I totally agree. I've said these before. He's somebody I really, really like. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's good everywhere. And I do think he's a big attacking threat. So hopefully we can keep guys like that fit for this run-in and go, and really, it's a must-win. Every game's a must-win. If we drop points in any of them, then it's gone. But the split is what the split is. It shouldn't be a shock to anybody. We knew who we were going to have to play, and we knew we were going to have to play them. So I don't know why there's been such a big deal made out of it. But again, that's probably because these teams aren't used to this stage of the season having anything that matters.
Aye, definitely. I think it's been a sort of storm in a teacup. I think that, to be fair, I think one of the most reasonable people about it has been Derek McInnes, who I think a lot of people thought would make a big hullabaloo about it, but he was actually relatively calm about it from what I've seen, and says that he's looking forward to it and that it's what the sort of league wants, and I think it's right. I think any league apart from this country would be looking to have that sort of game in the last game of the season. But you're right, obviously, about everybody's got a game before the split. Obviously, we're at home in St Mirren, Rangers are travelling to Falkirk, and Hearts are hosting Motherwell, so I think everybody's looking too far ahead to these sort of games, and it is really important that we get this, what looks like a routine game on Saturday. But as you say, we've obviously relied on a last minute winner away to St Mirren, and then they obviously beat us in the cup final as well, so they're also fighting for their life, so they'll be desperately hoping to take something at Celtic Park. I think I actually read last night on Twitter, I think it was Scotland's coefficient account, obviously does a lot of good work and seems to be really knowledgeable about these things, but I think he had worked out that it was pretty much impossible to give Hearts a home game on the last day of the season, and despite fucking idiots like you and Cameron trying to argue the opposite, I think he explained it quite well why it was always likely. And I heard somebody else say it during the week. I think if I'm a Hearts fan or a player or manager, I'm quite happy that the toughest game on paper that you've got is probably against us at Celtic Park. I'd be quite happy that that was the last game of the season, because if Hearts did their work and win this weekend and then win the other 4 games, there's every chance they could have the League One. So I'd be quite happy if our toughest game was the last one. So I don't know why a lot of them, I know they're saying we deserve to have our home fans, I don't think it's ever been about having your home fans there to gain advantage. I think that obviously the last decade to 15 years has been, the league's pretty much been settled by the time of the split, so I think it's just been common sense that when the trophy's been handed over, but Hearts are acting as if they won't have a fucking open top bus parade in Edinburgh for 3-4 days after it. Like, they'll obviously, if they go on and win the league, they'll celebrate it, rightly so, but I think out of the three, I think Rangers have probably got the toughest start, because I think they play Motherwell, then they play Hearts, then they play us, so that's 3 tough games. If they were to drop points in 2 of them, maybe even 3, they could be a spent force, especially with the games we've got coming up as well. Like, obviously Falkirk are a tough team, but I actually said on here a few weeks ago, it seems to be one of a few teams this season that we've dealt with. It's always been sort of tricky games, but we seem to have dealt with them in the cup early on in the season, then beat them at Celtic Park a few times. I know this is the third time they're travelling there in the league, but we seem to have always got these sort of games, get the goals at the right time. And then the game after that, we play Hibs away, and look, I don't want to borrow a conspiracy hat from Rangers to Hearts fans, but are Hibs going to be that bothered if Celtic beat them and go a bit closer to Hearts? Then I don't know. If I was in their position, I wouldn't mind seeing Hearts title bid derailed, but it remains to be seen. I'm sure we'll look in it further after the split actually comes into effect. We'll maybe do a wee episode where we give predictions about how we think the last 5 games will go. But one massive positive for this weekend's game is Celtic return to Celtic Park to face St Mirren. As I say, it's open show after a long awaited time, long overdue in many people's opinions, including ours. Celtic released a statement on Wednesday or Thursday night, I think it was, maybe Wednesday night, saying that they came to an agreement with the Green Brigade about a return to Celtic Park, and that's effective immediately, so they will be returning to the standing section on Saturday. Andy, we're not going to go deep into the politics yet, we've spoken about it enough this season, but just on the positives here, obviously I'm sure both sides are still got issues with each other, but a massive positive for Celtic. As I say, I think it's long overdue, but it just means that the final 4 home league games that we've got remaining in the league, we will have a full Celtic Park with the most vocal section returning.
Huge. I don't think that can be underestimated. We all know what Parkhead's like, to be honest. It's been a bit of a morgue at times, and there's just no that vocal element, whatever way people want to dress it up. So I think having that there for the run-in when people are going to be up for it, and really is the starting point, you would hope, for a lot of the atmosphere is huge and can be underestimated. The cynic in me, obviously, we're not going in too in-depth, but to say the cynic in me thinks it's not a coincidence this is when the board have done it, when there's a title there to be won and their eyes come out of it looking no bad, and it's also coming into season ticket renewal time, so I don't think that it's a coincidence it's happened now, but I way for all that, and just in the football side of things, I think it's massive. I think that we've seen before the effect the sort of crowd can have in the team, and I think at times this squad needs that pick me up. It needs that sort of extra driving force behind them. I think you've seen that. I think you see how we react, and we've seen it time and time again through fucking my entire life. Stuff like that's happened where fans have maybe been that extra couple of percent to push them out of the line. And there's some huge games, so I think it's really important, and I think it could be the difference for getting us out of the line in the sort of this difficult running, because as I said earlier, we can't afford to drop points at all. We can rarely afford to even fall any further behind in goal difference or anything like that. So it's massive that we go out there and give the team the best possible opportunity, and having them back in does that. So that's a positive. Away for the whole politics side of things, which obviously I've got my own views on, but they will.
Definitely, as I say, there's obviously a lot more behind it, and I think it will be discussed at length for weeks to come, and maybe even in the close season as well. And I think the cynic in me probably agrees with you. We've got season ticket renewals coming out, and we're in a bit of a shit show in the league as well, so if that's the reason that Celtic have finally relented, then I wouldn't be surprised, but that's me just speculating, of course. But I think it'll be massive, as you say. Like, not everybody likes the Green Brigade, but I think it's undeniable that they improve the atmosphere, and a lot of the times the early atmosphere this season's been a real slog at times, and for the last 5-6 months the atmosphere at Celtic Park's been non-existent, and I'm not saying anybody's innocent from either side, but it's obviously something that should have been resolved a lot sooner, in my opinion. We obviously know a few people involved and hear things, and I'm just glad that it's been sorted when it is. I know I'd be surprised if it's the end of it overall, but hopefully both sides are sort of happy with the outcome at present and can find some sort of common ground to cheer us on for the rest of the season and beyond, because it would be a massive loss to Celtic if we were to lose them, in my opinion. But aye, that sort of covers that. As I say, it's a Friday, we just wanted to get a quick episode out. We'll just quickly touch on the St Mirren game. I'm going to be optimistic for once. I think we'll win the game 3-0. I think that it's going to be a good atmosphere. Everybody should be ready to go. We're playing at the same time as Hearts and we're playing before Rangers, so it's a real chance to put pressure on they two. They two on paper have more difficult games than we have, so we've got to be looking at that as a possibility that we could make ground. As I said, if Hearts were to lose and Rangers were to lose, then we could go into the split top of the league and looking to just sort of no look back. But what's your thoughts, Andy? What's your quick prediction for the Mora? It's going to be obviously not going to be defining, and unless we were to drop points or lose, I suppose you could argue that way, but everything seems to be pointing in the right direction towards it.
I think you're right. I think everything points towards a positive result and a positive performance. So I'll agree with you, and I'll say I think it's going to be 3-0 as well.
Well, there you go, we're positive again. But I think the last time we were all positive was before Tannadice, and we know how that went. But aye, that'll do us for this episode. Just a wee quick one, but I hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you're subscribed on Spotify, Apple Pods, YouTube, wherever you're listening. Be back next week, hopefully it's a full complement to discuss that St Mirren game, and also looking towards the Scottish Cup semi-final against the same opponents. But if you're going to the game tomorrow, enjoy it, and we will review that game early next week and speak to you then. Hail, hail.